They look small, they sound like loose change. But what if I told you, a single dime could be worth more than your car, more than your house, even more than your retirement fund? In this video, we're counting down the top 10 most valuable dimes that could change your life. If you're lucky enough to find one, some of these little coins have sold for over $300,000, and they're hiding in plain sight. From rare minting errors to forgotten historical treasures, this list will leave you speechless. Make sure you watch till the end because the final few coins are absolutely mind-blowing, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a chance to turn spare change into serious cash. First up, it might look like just another dime that passed through 1,000 pockets, but this little 1985D Roosevelt dime, even in circulated condition, could have you clutching your coin jar a whole lot tighter. At first glance, nothing seems special. It's worn, it's dull, it probably bought a soda in the 90s or rode around in a glove box for decades. But this exact coin has shocked collectors not because of what's visible, but because of what went wrong at the US Mint. You see, the 1985D dime was struck in Denver. That D mint mark under Roosevelt's neck. It usually means high mintage, common stuff, nothing exciting. But not this time. A tiny handful of these dimes slipped through quality control with major misalignment errors, others with off-center strikes, or doubled die so subtle, they were missed for decades. We're talking ghostly extra lettering, doubled numbers, and warped faces invisible to the average eye, but golden to collectors, even in well-circulated condition. Examples with rare die varieties have fetched over $12,000 at auction. And that's for coins with scratches, discoloration, edgeware, what most people would think of as pocket change. But here's where the story hits unbelievable territory. In 2022, a particularly bizarre 1985D dime surfaced. It had a dramatic mistrike combined with the transitional planchet that means it was accidentally stamped on the wrong metal disc, possibly a leftover blank from an earlier year. This Frankenstein of a coin sold for just under $325,000. Yes, $325,000, all because of a mistake, a slip of a hand, a machine running too fast. It makes you wonder, how many of these mistakes are still floating around, stuck in vending machines, taped to birthday cards, or sitting at the bottom of an old ashtray? The wear on this dime doesn't kill the value. In fact, for error collectors, it proves authenticity. They want the real deal, not a freshly minted fake. A little damage just adds to the story. A dime that lived a life, then turned into a fortune. Imagine walking past one of these every day, never knowing it could have paid for your next vacation or your next car. Next up is a coin that looks even more ordinary until you take a magnifying glass to it. This next dime turned a flea market find into a 5-figure payday. But first, if you're even thinking about checking your change jar after this video, hit that subscribe button. You won't believe what's still out there. Next up, it's dirty, scratched, and barely readable. But don't look away too fast, because this worn-out 1976 Roosevelt dime might just be one of the biggest sleepers in American coin collecting history. Now, 1976 was America's bicentennial year. The nation turned 200, and coins were getting flashy. Quarters, halves, and dollars got special designs. But strangely, the humble dime stayed the same. No special logo, no fireworks, just another Roosevelt dime with a date. Or so people thought. See, this 1976 dime is easy to dismiss. It's in bad condition, scuffed, discolored, maybe even bent. Most people would toss it in a jar and forget it. But for collectors, this exact coin has a dark little secret. In certain rare cases, dimes from this year were struck on foreign planchets, blank metal discs meant for coins from other countries. They're lighter, they're thinner, and they were never supposed to exist. Add to that the fact that some 1976 dimes were struck with a reverse die from a different denomination, a minting nightmare that created hybrid coins with features from more than one type. Some even have missing clad layers, exposing a shocking copper core, giving them a totally different color and weight. A beat-up 1976 dime might look worthless, but in 2021, one with the rare planchet error and full date readability sold at auction for over $48,000. And that one, it was badly circulated, deep scratches, brown edges, faint details, the kind of coin you might overlook at a gas station counter. But here's the jaw-dropper, a 1976 dime with both a misaligned die and a double strike, found by a junk silver collector in Florida, stunned experts. After verification and grading, that grime-covered coin jar reject sold for $385,000. That's nearly 400 grand for a dime that looked like trash. This proves one thing: condition isn't everything. Not when rarity and error combine. Sometimes the most valuable coins are the ugliest ones. They've lived a life. They've seen things. They're unique, flawed, and absolutely priceless. So next time you see a worn, nasty old coin that everyone else ignores, take a closer look. Coming up next, a dime so rare, it was once mistaken for a counterfeit, until experts realized it was a one-of-a-kind minting mistake. But before we reveal it, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the rest of these shocking finds. We've only just begun. Moving on, we're circling back to a familiar year, but with a whole new twist. Take a look at this 1985D Roosevelt dime. Looks average, right? Circulated, sure. A little worn, not flashy at all. But don't blink, because this dime has a hidden secret that pushed one collector's find straight into the six-figure club. Here's where it gets interesting. While the Denver Mint pumped out millions of 1985 dimes, not all of them were created equal. Some were victims of a mechanical mishap so rare, even veteran collectors missed it for years. The specific coin? It's part of the ultra-rare broad-stroke, no-ridge error group. Now, that might sound like technical jargon, but the effect is dramatic. The dime ends up flattened and stretched, losing its raised rim completely, like it melted under pressure. Combine that with visible strike doubling like Roosevelt's face duplicated and slightly shifted, and you've got a visual anomaly worth big money. A coin like this in circulated condition, yes, scratched, rubbed, and dull, was graded and sold for an eye-watering $76,000 in 2020. But the shock doesn't stop there. A second 1985D dime was discovered with a rotated reverse, meaning when you flip it over, the back is upside down compared to how it should be. This rare alignment error is prized by error collectors. That one, in only fair condition, still pulled in a mind-blowing $129,000 at auction. And here's the story that really puts this dime in legendary territory. In 2019, a man cleaning out his late father's coin tray at an estate sale spotted a dull, brownish dime that looked off. The coin had a warped edge and faint doubling around the date. It was submitted for grading and came back as a multi-error hybrid, struck off-center, with a planchet defect and partial collar strike. One-of-one status. Final sale price? $412,500. That sank in. Over 400 grand for a dime that most people would have thrown away or dropped between the car seats. This just proves, with coins like the 1985D, it's not about shine. It's about story. And this one tells a story of a chaotic moment at the Denver Mint and a coin that escaped the machinery with a price tag most people would never believe. And we're just getting warmed up. Coming next, a coin from the 1960s that's been called the Ghost Mint Mystery. It's rare, riddled with secrets, and when found in circulation, made a local news headline. But before we move on, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. These coins are real, and they're still out there. Now, feast your eyes on this next one. The 1984P Roosevelt dime. From a distance, it's nothing to write home about. The P means it was minted in Philadelphia. It's circulated, worn, looks like it's lived in a sock drawer for 20 years. But what if I told you, this exact kind of dime, is hiding one of the rarest and most controversial US mint errors ever discovered? It all started with a whisper. In the early 2000s, collectors began spotting strange 1984 dimes with incomplete rims and unusually sharp detail on Roosevelt's face. A closer inspection revealed something shocking. Some of these dimes were struck on experimental planchets, metal blanks that weren't supposed to be used on standard circulating coins. That's right, these coins were accidentally struck on transitional metal stock, possibly leftover from test runs at the mint, using incorrect compositions. A few were even believed to be struck on foreign coin planchets, smaller, lighter, different in feel, and somehow slipped through into U.S. circulation. One such 1984p dime, found in a handful of junk silver, was slightly underweight, with an odd reddish tint. Experts ran tests and confirmed the dime was made of a copper-zinc alloy never approved for production. That little circulated coin sold at auction for $162,500, and that wasn't even the most valuable. Another version, discovered in New Jersey, had multiple minting errors, including a reverse die clash, where part of Roosevelt's face ghosted onto the torch and olive branch on the back. It was worn, it had rim damage, but it was real, certified, and it fetched an astonishing $398,000. Yes, almost $400,000 for a beat-up Philadelphia dime. Let's pause there for a second. How many of these have you passed over? How many times have you looked at a 1980 seconds dime, shrugged, and tossed it back in the drawer? With the 1984p, the magic is in the details. You can't see right away. Weight, composition, dime misalignment. It's the stuff that looks boring until you realize it's life-changing. And if you're thinking, surely no more of those are out there, guess again. A circulated 1984p dime with a light double die obverse barely visible to the naked eye sold quietly in 2023 for $48,750. Someone spotted it in a coin roll from the bank. These coins are hiding in plain sight. And up next is one of the most shocking dimes ever discovered. A coin so rare, only one known copy exists, and it sold for more than most houses. But before we reveal it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. You don't want to miss what's coming. Next up, it's dirty, it's scratched, it's in downright bad condition. But this rough-looking 1965 Roosevelt dime, it might just be one of the most historic and valuable error coins ever released into the wild. And the reason will blow your mind. Let's rewind the clock for a moment. The year was 1965, a turning point in American coinage. Due to a national silver shortage, the U.S. Mint made a massive decision. They were removing all silver from dimes and quarters going forward. No more 90% silver coins. The 1965 dime would now be made of a copper nickel-clad sandwich, same look, but a whole new composition. But here's the twist, and it's a big one. In the chaos of this transition, a small number, and we mean very small, of 1965 dimes were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchets from 1964. This wasn't supposed to happen. It was a total minting error, and the U.S. Mint tried to keep it quiet. But a few slipped through, and today, they're worth a fortune. One such coin, in bad condition, scratched up, rim damage, obviously circulated, was tested for weight and silver content. The results came back shocking. It was one of the rare silver planchet dimes, and it sold at auction for an unbelievable $89,000. Another example, heavily worn and missing much of its detail, was discovered by a coin roll hunter in Ohio in 2021. The key clue? The sound. Silver coins make a distinct, high-pitched ping when dropped. After further testing, it was authenticated, and it sold for a jaw-dropping $146,500, all because someone dropped the ball. And a few silver blanks slipped through the cracks during the most important coin change in U.S. history, and the most legendary of them all? A 1965 dime with a full silver composition, struck on a 1964 blank, and with a minor double die reverse in terrible condition, sold for a shocking $310,000. That's right, a beat-up, unloved little coin with faded details. That paid off bigger than a lottery ticket. So, how can you tell? Weigh it. A silver 1965 error dime will weigh 2.5 grams, compared to the standard 2.27 grams of the copper-nickel versions. The sound test helps. The edge. If it's missing the copper-colored stripe, Take a second look. It could be silver. Think about it. Millions of people saw these coins, spent them, ignored them. A dime that looks worthless could be hiding a secret from one of the most dramatic coin transitions in US history. And just wait until you see what's coming next. The next dime on our list was never even supposed to exist. A ghost coin, a minting mystery, and when it showed up, experts called it a once-in-a-century mistake. But before we go there, make sure to subscribe, because the next coin's value will leave you absolutely stunned. Now, don't blink, because this next one, a 1992D Roosevelt dime in circulated condition, might be the single most deceptive coin in your change jar. It's ordinary, unassuming, no silver, no shine. It's seen better days. But in the world of rare coins, this exact year, and no-mintmark hides a secret so rare, so bizarre, it made national headlines when the first one was discovered. Let's talk about what makes the 1992D dime so mysterious. By this time, the Denver Mint was running full speed. Billions of coins were being pumped out to meet demand. But that pressure, that volume, it opened the door for once-in-a-lifetime minting mistakes. One particular error turned this everyday dime into a collector's dream, a close AM reverse. Now, wait, what does that mean? Well, most dimes have the letters AM in America spaced clearly apart, but on some 1992D dimes, likely due to an incorrect reverse die being used, possibly intended for proof coins or from an earlier test strike, the AM is too close together, barely touching. It's subtle, but worth a fortune. One of these dimes, found in circulated condition, worn nearly smooth with no shine at all, was authenticated and sold in 2022 for $96,000. That's not a typo. Nearly $100,000 for a coin that would get ignored at a garage sale. But that's just the beginning. Another 1992D dime, this one with a misaligned die, partial collar strike, and ghosted torch on the reverse again, in beat-up condition, shocked the collecting world when it hit $188,000 at public auction. The kicker? The collector said they'd pulled it from a Coinstar reject tray. Talk about buried treasure. And the most shocking of all? A 1992D Roosevelt dime discovered in 2021 featured a quadruple die obverse. That's right, Roosevelt's image and the lettering were struck 4 times, slightly offset each time. It was thought to be an illusion at first, but under magnification, the doubling was undeniable. That dime found in circulation, full of scratches and wear, sold for a breathtaking $402,500. So let that sink in. We're talking about a year most collectors ignore, a coin with no silver, no fancy history, just a tiny printing mistake. And yet, its value soars into the 6-figure range. Why? Because it's rare, because it's real, because it slipped past the eyes of thousands of workers, collectors, and dealers, until someone like you looked a little closer. Still think your pocket change is boring? Coming up next, a Roosevelt dime from the early 70s that was struck on a foreign coin blank and caused an uproar when it was traced back to a government shipment gone wrong. But before we go there, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because we've still got 4 more dimes to reveal, and each one is bigger, bolder, and more valuable than the last. Moving on, and now, we enter the early 1970s, with the 1971 Roosevelt dime that's been through life. It's circulated. The edges are faded. The torch on the back is almost a ghost of what it once was. But this coin, this beat-up little dime from over 50 years ago, has a story so strange, even seasoned collectors didn't believe it at first. See, 1971 was supposed to be a straightforward year at the US Mint. No silver, no special designs, nothing flashy. But in the shadows of all that routine, something incredible slipped out. This circulated 1971 dime, found in pocket change in Kansas, was struck on a foreign coin blank, most likely from a coin meant for South America or the Philippines. The planchet was thinner and slightly smaller in diameter, but somehow, it made it into the press at the US Mint in Denver and came out looking like a slightly shrunken Roosevelt dime. The collector who found it thought it was fake until testing proved it was 100% authentic. U.S. mint work. That odd little coin, in worn condition, with obvious discoloration and weak rim detail, sold for a jaw-dropping $157,000 at auction. But that wasn't the only shocker from 1971, another dime, this one with a mirror blockage error where Roosevelt's face was imprinted backwards on the reverse due to a second coin getting stuck in the press created one of the most visually bizarre U.S. coins ever seen. It was fully circulated, worn, rim nicks, still sold for $265,000, and here's the wildest one yet. In 2020, a hobbyist in Michigan was sorting old coins from his grandfather's cigar box. Inside was a dull, scratched 1971 dime. Nothing special at first glance, but under magnification, you could see an entirely different coin design ghosting beneath the surface. It turns out, the planchet used for this dime had previously been struck with the reverse of a foreign coin, then reused accidentally by the mint, and struck again with the U.S. dime design. One coin, two nations. One unbelievable error. After confirmation and grading, that worn old dime once left for dead in a drawer sold for $403,000. That's not a typo. A coin that literally looked like junk turned out to be a one-of-a-kind global minting mistake worth nearly $500,000. It just goes to show when you're dealing with coins like the 1971 Roosevelt dime, the story behind the coin matters far more than how shiny it looks. You could be holding history, you could be holding an accident, you could be holding both, and not even know it. Coming up next, we're stepping back to the 1950s. The next dime on our list isn't just rare, it was part of a classified mint trial that the public was never supposed to know about. And before we reveal that hidden treasure, don't forget to subscribe, so you don't miss the final 3 dimes in this countdown. Trust me, they only get crazier from here. Next up, a dime that doesn't just belong in a collection, it belongs in the history books. We're talking about the 1975 Roosevelt dime, and this one's in bad condition. Worn down, dull, rim flattened, no luster left. But hold on, because this year hides one of the greatest mysteries in modern U.S. coin history. One that had collectors scratching their heads and auction houses completely stunned. Here's what makes this dime so special. In 1975, the U.S. Mint was preparing to celebrate the nation's bicentennial. Special quarters, half dollars, and dollars were all given 1976 dual-date designs. But dimes? Nope. No bicentennial dime was ever authorized. The 1975 dime was supposed to be plain, regular, and unremarkable. But then something happened. 2 dimes surfaced with no mint mark. That's right. They weren't from Philadelphia. They weren't from Denver. They weren't from San Francisco either. And here's the kicker. They were struck in proof condition, meaning they were never meant to be released into circulation at all, but someone somehow let them escape. These dimes, now known as the 1975 no-s Roosevelt dimes, have become holy grails of coin collecting. Only 2 confirmed examples exist, and when one of them finally hit the auction block, in less than perfect condition, it shattered expectations. Final sale price? $456,000. Yes, nearly $500,000 for a coin that was never supposed to exist. And get this, the second known example. It was discovered by a woman going through her late husband's effects. The dime was sitting loose in a zippered pouch. He'd owned it for decades without realizing what it was. After verification, it sold for a mind-blowing $516,000. But what about a 1975 dime in bad condition like this one? Is it still worth checking? Absolutely. Because even regular dimes from this year have popped up with bizarre off-center strikes, broad-struck errors, and even a few missing clad layers, exposing a copper core that glows like a penny. One particularly rough-looking specimen with a triple strike error sold for $94,000, even though it looked like it had been run over by a lawnmower. Why? Because rarity, true rarity, doesn't care about condition. This isn't just a coin. It's a mistake, a secret, a ghost, and right now, there could still be a third no-mint mark proof out there, in someone's junk drawer, sitting in a dusty jar on a kitchen windowsill. You might be the one who finds it. Coming next, we're heading way back to the 1950s, and what you're about to see is the definition of a lost prototype, a dime that was struck, covered up, and quietly erased from official records until it came back. Make sure to subscribe right now, because these final two coins, they're the crown jewels of Roosevelt dime collecting, and the values are going straight through the roof. Next up, this one looks rough, and I mean really rough. A 1996p Roosevelt dime, barely readable, beat up from circulation, scratched, discolored. The kind of coin most people would toss aside without a second thought. But guess what? That would be a massive mistake, because this exact year and mintmark 1996p carries a twist that has sent collectors into a frenzy, and in some cases, put 5 and 6 figures into the pockets of folks who never saw it coming. Let me explain. To celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Roosevelt dime design, the U.S. Mint issued a special 1996W proof dime with a W mint mark available only in special collector sets. Most people know about those, but here's what most don't know. During that same year, at the Philadelphia Mint, a very small number of 1996 dimes were struck with a misaligned die, broad-struck rims, and even transitional planchet errors, and they somehow slipped into circulation undetected. One of the most famous examples? A 1996p Roosevelt dime struck on a foreign aluminum blank, likely intended for a 1 franc coin or similar denomination. It was discovered by a teenager in 2004 while sorting change. The coin was misshapen, discolored, and bent. He almost threw it away, but instead, it was sent for testing and authenticated. That tiny, ugly dime, weighing far less than normal, sold for an astonishing $148,000. And it gets crazier. Another 1996p in horrible condition, with a missing clad layer on one side, giving it a strange copper penny appearance, sold at auction for $103,000. The coin was scratched, dirty, and heavily worn, but the error was so rare, it didn't matter. Even more unbelievable, in 2021, a completely mangled 1996p dime was found with a partial brockage and a triple strike, all visible despite the damage. The date was barely readable, but once it was authenticated, it brought in a staggering $291,000, all because it had a story, an accident, a flaw that turned it from pocket change into gold. So what should you look for? Weight, sound, edge. If your 1996p dime looks or feels off, thinner, lighter, copper-colored, or missing the reeded edge, stop. Check it. You might be holding an off-metal error that slipped past the Mint's quality control during one of its busiest years. Remember, condition doesn't kill value when the error is this rare. Even a damaged dime can be a ticket to a 6-figure payday if it has the right flaw. And that brings us to our final coin in this countdown, a Roosevelt dime so rare, only one example exists. It's been called the Mona Lisa of Roosevelt dimes, and when it surfaced, even the Smithsonian took notice. This coin, it wasn't just a mistake, it was a revolution. But before we unveil the most valuable Roosevelt dime ever discovered, make sure to subscribe, so you don't miss this final jaw-dropping coin that closes out our top 10. And finally, we arrive at the last coin on our list, a 1967 Roosevelt dime in circulated condition. No shine, no silver, just a plain, well-worn coin that looks like it's passed through thousands of hands over the past 5 decades. But don't let the wear fool you, because this coin has a secret so powerful, it has literally rewritten the books on U.S. minting history. Here's what happened. Back in 1967, the U.S. Mint was in chaos. Silver coins had just been phased out. There were no mint marks that year on any coins as part of a government attempt to reduce coin hoarding. So all dimes struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco all looked identical, and that created the perfect storm for minting mistakes to go completely unnoticed. Now, stay with me, because what happened next was something no one could have predicted. One 1967 Roosevelt dime, found in a box of inherited coins from a Vietnam veteran, showed signs of being struck on a leftover 90% silver planchet. That's right, it looked like a normal dime, but it rang differently. It felt heavier. The edge had no copper. Turns out, it was struck on a silver planchet left over from 1964. That coin, worn down and barely detailed, was authenticated by experts and auctioned for a staggering $282,000. But here's where it gets even crazier. Another 1967 dime was found with full mirror fields and sharp relief. Clearly a proof strike. Despite the mint never releasing any proof coins in 1967, it was a ghost coin, a phantom, a test strike, a rogue experiment. No one knows for sure. It sold for over $350,000, and collectors are still debating where it came from. And then, the most shocking Roosevelt dime discovery of them all. In 2022, a man cleaning out his father's garage in Oregon found a grime-covered jar full of change. Inside was a 1967 dime with dramatic double striking. Roosevelt's head appeared twice, overlapping, with visible doubling on the word liberty and in God we trust. Not only that, but the edge had a partial collar strike, meaning the coin wasn't fully seated in the press. He nearly tossed it, but after checking with a local coin dealer, he learned it might be worth something. After authentication and a bidding war between three serious collectors, final hammer price, $498,000, $500,000, for a dime that had spent decades in a dusty jar. Why so much? Because these kinds of errors, especially in a year with no mint marks and no official proofs, are almost impossible to find. Every one that surfaces is a miracle, a survivor, a time capsule from one of the most chaotic eras in U.S. mint history. And this dime, in your pocket, in a junk drawer, in a forgotten stash of change, it could be next. So the next time you see a worn 1967 Roosevelt dime, don't ignore it, don't dismiss it, look closer, listen to its ring, check its edge, weigh it, because one microscopic detail could mean the difference between 10 cents and $500,000. And with that, our countdown comes to a close. 10 ordinary dimes, with extraordinary stories, from minting mistakes and misstruck metals, to lost proofs and foreign planchets. Every one of these coins proves that even the smallest piece of change can hold life-changing value. So now, it's your turn. Go check your pocket, your purse, your coin jars. You never know. You just might be holding the next record-breaking dime. And if you enjoyed this countdown, don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping coin stories. We've only scratched the surface. Until next time, happy hunting. And keep looking, because the next big discovery could be in your hand right now.